Oh, well, we got a big couple days coming up. And I woke up to being called out again. Getting called out. I'm not sure exactly why I'm getting called out because I thought I was very charitable. Let's look at the first clip. So this clip, I didn't appreciate this clip, but it's also illustrative of, I think, the problems that we have going on between different sides of this issue. So I'll play a little bit of this.
Like church helped the Ottomans sack Constantinople and killed 40 Christians, and that's not the only time they helped Muslims. Your geopolitics is fantastic, but your Christian theology is utter dog shit.
Yeah, you law. This is just this is like when Southerners talk about the North. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to explain to you. In life, there are winners and losers. There are leaders and followers. There are those that fuck, and then there are those that get fucked.
But wait a minute, I thought you didn't like dating women and you weren't interested in fucking. So that's a little odd. But first of all, also the Ottomans were let into Byzantium partly by shall we say Zionist individuals. Now they weren't known as Zionists then. But does he not know that it was that it was uniate at the time? It was uniate. So, yeah, not even accurate. And he doesn't even seem to be aware of the fact that when St. Augustine, one of their hallowed church fathers, their most important church father, when Augustine wrote City of God, it was actually written to refute the accusation that Rome fell because it became Catholic. So the idea that we prove a position religiously by worldly success and military prowess is so absurd, given the fact that one of their greatest doctors of the church had to write a book refuting that idea. Furthermore, what about when the papacy was held captive by the Masons in the Vatican? What about popes that were taken captive by kings in the Middle Ages? Does that then signify the defeat of Catholicism? What about the numbers success of Islam? And again, by his own argument, because Byzantium was uniate and fell to the Ottomans, then the Muslims are the winners and the Catholics are the ones that got fucked, by his line of argument. So, I mean, again, I didn't say anything negative about this dude the other day when he was asked this question. I said, look, I think that the advice he told young guys wasn't radical. It was to take time, build up your power levels. I thought that was pretty good advice outside of like the religious sphere, because obviously we'd disagree on Catholicism and Orthodoxy. And then the next comment came.
I really enjoyed your debate.
So let's talk about first the ankle biter statement. So first of all, I haven't talked about him hardly at all in the last 5 years. He says that there was no interactions. Actually, last year, he told me to stop arguing with Catholics all the time. And I said, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe I've spent too much time debating Catholics. I said, but there's always an open floor if you want to come and do some kind of debate. And he wasn't really interested in another religious debate. And my thought was we could do something geopolitical. And then I think eventually, a few months later, somebody suggested something like debating Kanye. I don't know if it was him or one of his followers. And I'm like, why would I debate Kanye? No, not debate Kanye himself, but debate the topic of whether Kanye is good or weird or bad. I don't know what the debate was about, but I'm not going to debate the topic of Kanye. It's just a weird topic. So how would I be ankle biting when I basically haven't even talked about this whole domain, the whole sphere of what they're involved in politically speaking? I've not spent much time on politics at all in the last 5 years, maybe 3 streams. And he spends a lot of time talking about Vance and all of that stuff, which we actually did cover multiple streams on Palantir, Peter Thiel, and all of that in the last few months. We've done multiple streams on that. So in that sense, we overlapped into the political sphere. But the accusation, well, I'll let you hear what he says.
Dyer on Orthodoxy versus Catholicism. So will you ever agree to debate him on it again, seeing as it's been 5 years since the last time you guys debated? We all would like to see a part 2.
It was actually like 7 years ago, not 5 years ago.
Why would we do that? We did it. We did the Orthodoxy versus Catholicism debate. I mean, there's not any new information on Orthodoxy and Catholicism as far as I'm aware. I really don't appreciate it. I kind of see him as an ankle biter. You know, I mean, where was Jay Dyer for the past 5 years?
Where was I? I was right here making the content that I make, talking about geopolitics and theology and philosophy and history, not so much talking about politics. So I might also ask the exact same thing. When my website was deleted in 2018, where was anybody else there to help me? Well, some people did help me. Alex Jones helped me out. Other people came and stepped in. Nobody from this sphere necessarily helped me out. I think there was an offer of somebody, maybe Vince, said, would you like to be on Cozy or something like that? And I thought about it, but it didn't look to me like Cozy was getting a lot of traction. So I just kind of avoided most of the alt tech spheres except for Rockfin. And I chose Rockfin because although they covered and allowed all the same types of material, they actually had a good payout. So in my view, why would I work and do a lot of uploading and all that when I'm going to get paid over on Rockfin? So Rockfin ended up being the chosen alternative route for me to put the spicier content and stuff like that. So let's talk about that first. This same question could be asked of somebody else. Like, where were all the people to support me when my whole website and means of living was deleted in 2018? The same hour as Alex Jones and everything else was deleted, I was deleted. My whole website, all of my living. Not too long after that, maybe a year after that, my entire YouTube channel was demonetized in 2019, I think. And from 2019 to now, that ends up being hundreds of thousands of dollars that I lost in income. So this idea that nobody else was persecuted or banned or whatever, and I'm not saying that maybe I haven't kept up with everything that he's done, so maybe he was persecuted 20 times more, literally. And that's entirely possible. So I'm not trying to do like a who was persecuted more competition. I'm sure he could win that. But the idea that like nobody else suffered or went through like demonetization or like I went through the same stuff. I was shadow banned on Twitter confirmed not too long ago. I had to go through all the rigmarole and hoops to get that undone. I was the first person in 2016 because of debating Zionism on Facebook to get a year suspension, 1 year suspension for debating Zionist topics on Facebook in 2015-16. Now, nobody cares about Facebook nowadays, but at that time, for promoting your blog, Facebook was essential. I mean, at that time, Facebook is what Twitter is now, right? So it's just simply not true. Now, when it comes to the topic of talking about Zionism and Judaism, I'll play his comment on that. I have talked about that since 2007. I didn't openly talk about that as broadly and as widely as other people have because of what happens when you talk about that. Obviously, I have dependents. I don't know if he does. Maybe he has a mom or something that he helps. I have dependents that I have to take care of. I'm not just talking about Jamie. I have family members I have to take care of. So for me, these things are a little more costly in that regard. And so you choose tactically to talk about what you talk about because everybody knows that you're going to get banned and put on lists and this and that. So to purity spiral and then act like everyone who didn't do everything that you did was not truthful or faithful or sincere is just a little disingenuous. Now, beyond that, in 2007 and 8, when I first started studying Judaism, rabbinic Judaism, the history of Israel, Zionism, all of that, I was sent some really nasty warnings and messages. And I had my whole website back then taken down. That was back before the websites I have now. And so I learned a long time ago what topics were allowable in what arenas. So I chose a more tactical route, and also I don't have all the same views that I had in 2007 and 8, right? I still had some trad cat ideas back then, and was probably still influenced by some of the more out there elements of the far right. I don't have all of those same far right views. For example, back then I probably would have fallen for the idea that like the KGB is still, influencing things, and that NATO's good guys or something like that, which I don't believe any of that anymore. So it's just kind of like picking and choosing the events of the last 10, 15 years. And also I think that he's still angry about the fact that we had that theology debate. And for me, the root of the issues goes back to that. It's not any of this other stuff. It's that I believe politics is downstream ultimately from religion. The people in that sphere believe that religion is secondary to politics. And my whole philosophy of presuppositional apologetics, the whole approach to worldviews, all of that is consistent with the idea that those things are more fundamental than the political stuff. That's not what most people think. So you're going to garner a much larger audience talking about the political sphere all the time. And I don't care. I believe that people are free to talk about the topics they want to talk about. I just kind of matured in my perspective out of really caring so much about the day-to-day political stuff when I got out of my 30s. And I think most people do that. Like most people, by the time you get into your 30s, you're a lot less idealistic than you were in your 20s, because you begin to realize that, you know what, I've seen a lot of voting and I've never seen the big issues change a whole lot. In other words, things continue to go in the direction of the technocratic agenda, regardless of who people are voting for. Because what really runs politics isn't ideas, it's money. And then you start to realize, well, the only way to really have an effect, I mean, maybe 0.01% of people can speak out and have a ideological effect, maybe. But even still, like, it takes money, right? That's what really runs things. And so I think it's much better to be economically situated, to have a family, and to grow in that direction than worrying too much about the political day-to-day sphere. And so I also started focusing, as you guys know, about 10 years ago, more heavily on history and geopolitics rather than politics. Because the more I got into politics, the more I studied conspiracies, the more I studied the history of the Federal Reserve and, being in the Ron Paul stuff in 2007-8, you start to realize, okay, there's deeper stuff, but it's not what a lot of this low-tier conspiracy people say. It's more of a espionage history that's the real history. And that leads you out of politics and into geopolitics. So I would argue that I've actually consistently been deconstructing the bigger geopolitical problems way before Nick or anybody else in that sphere. I was awake to this stuff in 2007 and 8. I just didn't openly talk about it as much, again, because the platforms just simply wouldn't allow it. And I was I was 1 year banned before Jones for talking about Zionism on Facebook, 2016. Again, nobody cares about Facebook now, but at that time, like, that's pretty devastating to your reach and to your audience. So it's just simply not true that, like, nobody else has dealt with anything. Now, it's true that I'm sure, again, Nick has dealt with a lot more higher profile stuff. But yeah, I just don't think that that's exactly what's going on with me. Yeah, I didn't say that Nick was saying that you can vote your way out of stuff. I didn't say that. 3 steps ahead, dude. I was saying this stuff in 2007. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, people are just now discovering a lot of the material that I talk about, and they're realizing that, oh, actually, Jay said that in 2010, 2011. He lectured through the entirety of Tragedy and Hope back then. So nobody was even aware of this stuff in this sphere except for Richard Grove. So it's just simply like it's not accurate, and a lot of you young guys like don't even know what it was like in 2007 talking about this stuff. I had people threatening to get me fired in 2007 and 8 because I had multiple blog posts criticizing Zionism back then, and they were saying, I'm going to call your work. I know where you work. You're going to be fired. I've been dealing with this for a long time. I haven't talked about all of the elements of this because it doesn't matter. Like, we're way past all that. So it's just not true. It's not accurate. This glazing of the situation and framing of it.
I've been getting attacked by the Jews, by all these different groups for 5 years, and Jay Dyer, first of all, he won't talk about the Jews all this time.
Not true. I've done, within the last year, we've done some of the biggest podcasts out there covering Israel, the history of Israel, Rothschild, Zionism, Rabbinic Judaism, on some of the largest podcasts that have been seen by hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions if you count the clips, particularly Hodge Twins podcast. That was massive. I'm the one that co-writes the Sam Hyde podcast, the very one that he went on. So that's also not true. I specifically did a 4-hour exchange with AP and David Wood that got seen by at least 100,000 people, maybe more, on this topic for 4 hours. I have multiple clips up of debating Rabbinic Jews, Orthodox Jews within the last year because they started coming to debate. They never came before. Now they started coming, and those clips have hundreds of thousands of views now. So that's also not accurate. I lectured on the relationship between the Rothschilds and the Federal Reserve and the nation-state of Israel all the way back in 2012 in significant, lengthy lectures. So the other thing that happens too is like people don't know your old archives. Like the way the internet's structured, it's like everything is just what's within the last day or like the most recent live updates. It's like a day-to-day thing. So archive stuff and stuff that you talked about 10, 15 years ago gets drowned out. It gets shadow banned. It gets lost. Like a lot of this stuff you can't search on YouTube, and YouTube has pulled, I'd say 15 of my lectures, YouTube has pulled and removed over the last, 10 years. I've been on YouTube for a long time, like 2007, 8, very early. And so a lot of these talks and things like this have been pulled. So from my vantage point, like what was the point of sequestering on Rumble and getting no views and speaking into the void? Because that's, if you remember what it was like from 2016 to 2020, that's kind of what it was. Like you would just be sequestered talking to basically nobody. So I just didn't take that route. I just was like, all right, I guess like if I want to have a channel, I'm going to have to talk about what's not going to get me shadow banned, deleted, demonetized. But all of my stuff, all the history stuff, all that stuff is in my archives. It's on my Rockfin. It's in, I just moved to the platforms where you could talk about it. So that's also not accurate.
Wants nothing to do with me. Then I go on this run. He reposts our debate, ankle biting me. I really see it as kind of dishonorable if I'm
So I reached out to him in DMs about a year ago, and we had a friendly exchange, and we talked about setting up another debate or something like that, and it didn't come about. So it's not actually the case that I didn't have anything to do with him or anything positive. In fact, I was very charitable on 3 days ago stream where we covered this whole situation, and I said I didn't really understand why Tucker and Candace were making such a big deal and a big fuss. And I said that I thought his advice was good for young men. So again, this is really just kind of odd I think that people know that when they super chat him about the debate, it irks him, and so he gets annoyed with it. So probably this super chat annoyed him. But another thing is that he thinks that I waited until he got popular to post an old debate. I don't run the clips channels. As you guys know, we had 2 weeks ago, I told anybody and everybody to make their own clips channels, to just go hog wild. And they did. So there's like 10 to 15 clips channels now, maybe 20. And I don't have any control. I don't know who the people are. I just told everybody to go start clipping, because that's what everybody does to grow their audience. When you get to a certain level, if you want to go to the next level, you tell everybody in your audience, go wild, have fun, clip into oblivion. So all the clips channels started reposting that debate because all of this was getting traction. I didn't post that on those clips channels. The only clips channel I run is J. Dyer live streams and absurdities. That's my clips channel. So I didn't do this because everybody just assumes like the most, maybe because in the media world so many people are dastardly and malicious, the assumption then becomes that everybody is dastardly and malicious. But I didn't post any of the debate. I might have shared it on my feed, but that's because all these other people were sharing it. And Nick himself has followed all of the TPUSA people, all of the normie sphere, Ben Shapiro sphere people, to try to get engagement and to try to get debates. And I don't even do like 1/10 of that. So they've done that like 9 times more than me.
Telling the truth, if I'm being honest with you. So I don't really appreciate that. I don't appreciate that. You know, as Christians, there should be some solidarity. I'm under attack constantly. All this guy does is attack Catholics. Got nothing to say in defense of me.
Not true. So the majority of the debates that we've done in the last 5 years, high-profile people, were Muslims. Muslims. There have been several Catholic debates, but most of the high-profile Catholic people won't debate me. So Trent Horn and Tim Gordon are the main big-name Catholic guys, and a couple smaller-name Catholic guys from Tim Gordon's circles we did those debates with. But that pales in comparison to Islamic debates, which is what we almost entirely focused on from 2018 to last year. I mean, I put immense amounts of time into debating Muslims from 2018 to 2024. So that's not correct. On top of that, there's actually more high-profile atheist debates than there are with Catholics. So there's at least 4 or 5 high-profile atheist debates: Stefan Molyneux, Matt Dillahunty, Malpass, and then there's a couple more. But that's like equal to or more than the number of Roman Catholics that we've debated. Also, the reason for all the debates with the Roman Catholics is not just because I'm a bad person and I'm bad faith and I want to debate Catholics. It's because since 2018, 2017, when there was originally, believe it or not, a fairly friendly relationship between Orthodox and Roman Catholics online, back in the day, there used to be a show called Reason and Theology that was headed up by a uniate fat Roman Catholic named Michael Lofton and a guy named Craig Trullia. And they had friendly discussions about Orthodox, uniate, Roman Catholic issues. And then things went downhill from there due to, I would argue, Michael Lofton's bad behavior, largely. And then from that point on, there was kind of this continual sort of war between a lot of the pop apologists and myself and other people in the Orthodox sphere. That was also so it had not. It's not just I just want to go after Catholics all day long. It's that the online Catholic apologetic is very active and very vibrant. But again, I would say in terms of like prominent, popular Protestants versus Catholics, it's probably about equal. Because I've debated Pastor P, Pedro. I mean, Pedro's not that prominent, but that debate got a lot of views. I've tried to debate Wes Huff. We basically had a debate with Ruslan. The last half of his podcast was about a 2-hour debate. Ruslan's a huge channel. I mean, it was basically a debate. It wasn't an official debate with a moderator. And I'm sure there's more. But that's again like 4. That's about equal to the number of high-profile Roman Catholic debates that we've done. So, like, again, that's not really true.
Then all of a sudden I'm on this generational run. Oh, now he reposts a debate. Now he's in my replies. Oh, I'm going to debate him again. I beat him in a debate.
I never said in the replies, I'm going to debate him again. I said I would be willing to. So I don't know where he's getting that. I said I will be debating him again. I said I will debate again. And it's weird, too, that he thinks that I would only be interested or in any of this because he's on a generational run. I asked him last year to do a debate on the Vatican and Judaism and geopolitics before the generational run. So that's not accurate.
It's just kind of shitty. I think everybody kind of recognizes that about him. That's just kind of shitty behavior. So,
but again, the picture that was painted isn't accurate. So, so he's not interested in a debate on theology. That's fine. I don't have to debate anyone on theology all the time. We could have a Vatican geopolitics debate. I've been offering, as you guys know, anyone in the Roman Catholic sphere, and I've even reached out to professors. None of the Roman Catholics will debate the geopolitics of the Vatican. They'll debate the infallibility of the Pope all day long, but nobody wants to debate the geopolitics of the Vatican. So that offer still stands. And again, it doesn't have to be nasty. He's debated Alex twice or 3 times, right? So he's debated Lord Voldemort 3 times. And now when it comes to the original debate, people say, "Oh, you're mean because you debated Nick wanted to do a debate on the papacy back then." So I'm not picking on people if they want to do debates. People who are 19 can join the military and go die for their country. They can make their own decisions. So no, I'm not picking on kids. Nobody's forcing anybody to do debates. So I mean, like again, like if I was clout chasing, wouldn't I have been engaging in the types of activities like always trying to debate Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro or like, and I don't care if you do that. I think it's kind of funny. But I noticed a very similar situation here too with Shamoun, right? So we had a very similar situation with Sam Shamoun where things are cordial and friendly, and then somebody decides that suddenly there's an enemy situation because I offer to have a debate. My thinking is when people talk smack openly, like the way Sam Shamoun did, my thought is, I guess they're wanting to do a debate. They must be saying these things because they'd like to get some attention, stir up some drama, and get a debate going. That's what I usually think people are up to, and I don't like that. Doesn't bother me. Hey, yeah, let's do it. Usually, there's always an open spot for a formal debate of some kind. Remember when Ritvan was upset, right? Ritvan was mad 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Well, let's have a debate. Let's do that. Okay. We didn't end up having a formal debate, but we did have a 4-hour exchange. So it's very easy to set up these kinds of exchanges with me, but I don't know. I think theologically he's not interested, and that's fine. Like, he's not a theology-focused dude, but there's always an open spot if anybody wants to set up a Vatican geopolitics debate. So, anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that. And then I think that was the only 2 clips I was going to look at. Welcome, everybody. I don't know what's up with Ridvan. I haven't kept up with it. I just kind of. So what happens again? It's sort of like the Sam Shamoun thing. It's like when things just out of nowhere just sort of like pop off, unexpected. I just move on, dude. Like, I don't. I've done alternative media stuff long enough to have a pretty good sense of like when to make alliances and when to step back. And I want to comment on that too. It's like, I don't owe you or anyone else uncritical loyalty. Like, maybe there's certain things that your movement did that I saw as red flags. Doesn't mean that I'm necessarily disagreeing with everything you're doing. But if I hold off, just like I hold off with Ridvan, just like I stepped back with Sam Shamoun. If I start to see red flags, I've done alternative media long enough to have a decent enough sense, and I don't always get it right. Like sometimes you'll misjudge a character of a person or something like that. David, you want to call in? If I don't have a sense of shit, then how am I still here? Like, David, you're welcome to call in, people that disagree. I've also always had open forum here, so people can come and debate all they want. And I don't always go out seeking a debate. I usually let people come to me. And I don't always just harass and yell at people. I give people options of formal debates or informal debates. I don't care which one. We've always done both because both have their merits. Blood sports are entertaining. They get a lot of views. But formal debates are more high quality. So anyway, I do have a good sense. I wouldn't be doing what I am, where I am, if I didn't have some sense of noticing, having discernment is basically what I'm trying to say. So if you don't think I have discernment, be my guest to rush on into whatever movements you think are going to change things and have fun with that. I mean, I said positive things about him 3 days ago on a live stream, and now I'm ankle biting because I answered the Groyper's questions about what I think about Nick. So
and what would be your main position?
So if I answer the questions that people ask me about the person, then it's only because I'm ankle biting about the person. But he thinks that I run all my clips channels. I don't run the clips channels. I don't control what they post.
Like the Kaiser Ref channel and stuff like that, the Fuentes clip channels, or what channels is he referring
The what?
to?
Oh, so because somebody posted, one of the clips channels, two of the clips channels posted the debate that I did with him like 7 years ago. He assumed that I personally posted that just because I wanted to get attention and traction, and that I'm just ankle biting. I mean, I've been here doing my own thing for like 8 years. I transitioned into doing a lot more comedy, writing for Sam Hyde. It's just silly to think that like and by the way, how much traction would you actually get from posting a 7-year-old debate? Like 10,000, 20,000 views. And I did not say in the replies, I will have a debate with him. I said, I'm open to having a debate. That's all I've ever said. But good question. Nick Bucci, $5. Time for debate war. I don't think anybody wants a debate, which, I mean, again, it's like, I've always operated this way. People that have a disagreement, we can set up a formal or an informal debate. That's like, I've always done the exact same process. And it doesn't have to be about theology. We can do a geopolitics debate or something like that. I don't care. It doesn't even have to be a debate. Somebody sent him a $1,000 super chat saying talk to him and talk to Dyer and all this, and nobody ever talked to me or reached out to me. So it's like the accusation of he didn't support me. Well, I mean, that goes like, who supported me? Like I've been in here doing my stuff basically alone, except, let's see, who supported me? We got on one Tucker episode. Alex Jones has been a big supporter. Crucible's been a big supporter. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have any friends in media, but I'm just trying to say, like, who's been big supporters? Hodge Twins had us on. I'm trying to think of Sam Hyde's been a supporter. So, like, tit for tat, dude. Who supported me? What are you talking about?
Yep. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
So I just wanted to mention, I want to make a comment about Nick. I used to watch Nick a lot in like 2020, and I was a big Catholic at that time. And one of the things that I noticed is a lot of Catholics are very, it's very political, and so they don't put their worldview above their politics. They put the politics usually above like the religious view and all that. So Nick kind of made a comment in one of the clips about like how Trump isn't the base dictator that we wanted and all that. But I would say that you can't really do that without getting a correct worldview.
Right.
So if you're to have a debate with him, I think kind of the biggest thing is really tag. And you can't really apply, I know it's kind of like low hanging fruit, but you gotta hit tag with everyone. Like even people on the right that eat each other up a lot, it's always like tag 100%. They just like, there's kind of this meme that like people on the right wing, they love getting over each other and all that, and it's just like, if you're going to talk about the Jews, for example, like, okay, well, you can go about naming the Jews over and over and over again, but like you have to start at the religious worldview is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, which, I mean, and the Jewish question relates to that because that is partly a religious topic, right? So how we approach who the Jews are, what's our stance towards Judaism, towards the Jews in the future, depends on how the Orthodox Church and the Orthodox Church Fathers classify it. And the problem is that the Vatican II papacy has already stated multiple times over that they are not interested in converting the Jews. The Vatican II papacy has said since 2003 in their covenant and mission document, which was a U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops document, which the Vatican doesn't seem to disagree with, in fact, has made many statements backing it up, is that we no longer have the stance of proselytizing and converting the Jews. So that's a ecumenist departure from everything that Christianity taught for the first 2,000 years, especially the Eastern Orthodox Church, which still teaches that, no, you have to be converted. So that's precisely why the papacy makes all these concessions to modern Orthodox Rabbinic Judaism. That's why they go and pray in the synagogues, which the canons of the first 1,000 years of the church forbid any cleric to do, much less the Bishop of Rome. So, like, what does that say?
Hey, I had some thoughts about the whole interaction with Fuentes. I've been watching you for like the last 6 months, and I really appreciate all the lives you do and all the content you make. Mm-hmm. But I'm so glad you brought up the Sam Shamoun example, because I think that's exactly kind of what's going on with Nick internally, whether it's some sort of resentment that or of the debate you guys had, or with, I guess, maybe knowing that orthodoxy is true. But at the same time, I think his movement as a whole is very effective as far as, I guess, raising the consciousness of the masses or turning people to Christianity in general. Although I don't, agree with his theology or guys like George Janko that are pretty mainstream, obviously. But I wanted to ask, do you think his movement is like inevitable? I know you agree with his message of like raising your power level, mm-hmm. or like a future time to come. Mm-hmm. Do you think his movement is inevitable, and what's that balance we should take as Orthodox?
I mean, again, I just don't see. I mean, I'm old enough in my vantage, and maybe I'm wrong. If you want to go be a young dude and follow these political movements, I mean, nobody's stopping you from doing that. But what I see as somebody who is now middle-aged, looking back on the attitude that I had in my 20s about this stuff, if the foundation is built wrong, then all the other stuff ends up being built on sand. So it's like Jesus said, you build your house on the rock or you build it on sand. And they think the rock is the guy in Rome and the politics of the guy in Rome, when everything that these Roman Catholics talk about is the very opposite of what their infallible head says. Their worst enemy is the Pope. He's the one that's for open borders. He's the one that's for syncretism. He's the one that's for all the sexual weirdness. I'm talking about Francis especially. So, like, the thing that they're ultimately mad about and raging against, I've been saying this for years because I used to be a trad cat, is their own hierarchy. So they think that the Jews are the enemy and the people out here are the enemy. And then when they're confronted with the fact that their infallible head has gone and prayed in the synagogues and in the mosques, which is obviously a sign of ecumenism and not actually believing the gospel, then it just turns into ignoring that, hand-waving that. And I used to be in the trad cat world. I understand that Nick Fuentes is not a trad cat. He's a normal Catholic. But I've been in both worlds. And I did this throughout my 20s. I lived that whole life of trying to be a traditional Catholic and going to Latin Mass and all that. And I don't think it gets you anywhere. I don't think what human beings need is healing. And political solutions are downstream from the healing that they need. And if you don't get the healing that you need, all the other stuff is just running in a hamster wheel. That's what I've been saying ever since we had the first debate about the papacy. And all these people think that that stuff is secondary. Okay, then how do you think this is going to solve the things that you're fussing about every day? Literally, the Pope every day talks about open borders for Europe. I mean, I just don't get there's a huge disconnect between what people are arguing online and what's actually going on in Rome. So again, I think it's very similar to the Sam Shamoun situation, where just sort of out of nowhere, like, you're a bad guy for what? Even after saying like charitable things. I think also, like, what happens is a lot of times people, like, when you blow up really quick, and we saw this with Sam Shamoun last year, right? Like, his clips channels were getting hundreds of thousands of views every day. And then what happens is it sort of goes to your head, and then you sort of get this attitude because there's a lot of opposition that everybody's against you and fighting you. So it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say beyond that. Like, I mean, I've just been here, I've been doing the same thing for all this time. And then it's like, oh, you're a Fed. Well, if I'm a Fed, then why did I went through all the same banning and shadow banning, had my website deleted, lost my income, demonetized, lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's like all the same stuff. Oh, you're a Fed. You work for the KGB. You're a Mossad. You're this. Dude, I'm the one that covers the freaking Mossad books. Like, I actually lecture through history of Mossad, Victor Ostrovsky, and then I'm the bad guy. It's just but the approach I take is, I guess, less popular because it's not hyper political. I find politics super fucking boring, dude. It's like WWF, but less interesting. And I don't even care about WWF. Like wrestling is fake and gay. So, like, following JD Vance and what JD Vance is, like, I don't even find the TPUSA people's, like, that sphere is super boring too. So I don't even have the energy and the drive to, like, imagine keeping up with what Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro say. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that just sounds super boring. And I don't care if people do that and they try to get them to debate. But it's just, politics is, again, I think once you get into your 30s and your 40s, like, politics is just super stupid, dude. It's like, it's really low tier stuff. And I think highly intelligent people end up getting drawn to things that are more interesting. So I'd rather have a smaller audience of intelligent people than just trying to have, like, a mass political. Again, it's because like, young dudes just haven't lived long enough to learn how futile politics is. Again, other than, like, your local stuff, it just seems like a waste of time. Bayes Biker, $5. Do you think that Nick Fuentes is a Jesuit? No, that doesn't make any sense. So I think people in the Protestant world get this idea that, like, you're a Jesuit. That's an order. So people who are lay people are not Jesuits. Like, you might have a Jesuit education, like if you were at Fordham or Georgetown or something like that, and you studied under Jesuits. But lay people are not in the Jesuit order. So, no.